Hello and welcome to the third and the Don Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always, here to recap the NFL season, preview the next week of NFL games. Cecil, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm kind of in mourning, but but we'll get to that in a minute. This is in celebratory support of my team. This is a mourning of what was and what could be. But other than that, I'm doing okay.
Well, that's good that you're doing okay. Otherwise, it was definitely a frustrating Monday night, but we will get to that game here in a little bit. Let's start off with a recap of Week 8. Thursday Night Football had the Baltimore Ravens against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Ravens won 27 to 22. It was not the most entertaining game. The Buccaneers got some garbage time touchdowns. The Buccaneers have a lot of issues to correct and a lot of things to figure out moving forward if they're going to make the playoffs. It is a very weak NFC South, but the Ravens get the win on the road on a short week. That's really good, and they held on in the fourth quarter, which, I mean, they're starting to turn that narrative around that they can't hold on to games.
Yeah, I think the biggest storyline here is just how the Buccaneers look. I mean, Tom Brady and the timing with some of the receivers is just completely off. He's missing throws that he wouldn't normally miss. He's also, leading receivers. He's not getting it to where they want it to be. He overthrows them. He overleads them, and it's just not looking like an effective product on the field right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Can that change? Sure. I mean, we're talking, a foot difference between where the ball is thrown now and where it used to be thrown, and sometimes that can make all the difference, and it's an adjustment that Tom Brady can still make. Um, but as we all kind of know, is if you can get pressure on Tom Brady at this point, I mean, he's a sitting duck a lot of times. He's not mobile. He can't really run the ball very far at all. We saw him try to, run out, roll out of the pocket a couple times in this game. He just can't. So that was kind of a big thing. The Ravens offense, though, I mean, they were down. Rashad Bateman went out very early. And then Mark Andrews also went out very early. So for them to, put up some points on the board and, the ball against a very good Tampa Bay run defense is pretty impressive. So, I mean, they were in a good spot. They performed well against a team, who still has Tom Brady. And now, later this week they've already traded for Roquan Smith, so I even shore up their defense more. So, I mean, after what I've seen so far into the season, I mean, they're in the driver's seat to win the AFC North and clinch that playoff spot.
Yeah, you mentioned they're at driver's seat. You mentioned that they're getting Roquan Smith now. They were aggressive at the trade deadline. We'll kind of recap some of the moves that happened as we go through these games, but for me, Cease, like last year, the Rams were very aggressive and they won a Super Bowl. I think it does pay off. F them picks, as Les Snead would say, the Rams GM. But if you have a team who's competitive these days, go make a move at the deadline. It's the most friendly time ever to trade if you're an NFL team. You don't have to give up that high of draft picks most of the time. You can really manage the salary, whether one team takes on a lot of it or others, or you move some of your players' contracts into signing bonuses, whatever it is. So Ravens get the A plus with the win, holding on the road against Tom Brady. They also get the A plus at the trade deadline because now they have Patrick Queen, who has not played his greatest, but they also have him next to Roquan Smith, and I think those two could be solid next to each other. All right, on to the Sunday games. We have the Denver Broncos beating the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, 21 to 17. For the Broncos, it's good to get a win. It's still very, very apparent that there are some things wrong with this offense. Jaguars, they're still cooling off after that hot start. I mean, you have to be a little bit critical of Trevor Lawrence. There's still a lot to like there, but they get the loss here. They're 2-6 now, and we were talking about them as possibly a team that could push for a playoff spot, and now it's just not looking like that's going to happen.
Now, it was a rough, Europe, London, early Sunday morning game. Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence really struggled again to use his receivers. I mean, he was using Evan Ingram a lot. The one bright spot really I see from this game was the defense looked pretty good for Jacksonville Jaguars, and then obviously Travis Etienne had a really good game as well. They're really leaning on him, and he's really showing the burst and the yards after catch, the yards after he passes the line of scrimmage, how he can really accelerate to that second level. And it's been pretty good so far, seeing that burst and seeing him be able to. He brings a lot of dimensions to this Jacksonville offense. James Robinson is great, and he's kind of more of a downhill runner. He's not as shifty. He's not going to be as fast out of the backfield as well receiving. So I think they found a guy who can really be a feature back for them, over the next couple of years, as long as he can stay healthy. On Denver Broncos side, Russell Wilson continued to struggle a lot of times. Still not much going on there. I believe they traded for, I forget what running back they traded for, but they traded for a running back at the deadline because Mike Boone also went on IR, so they were down to Melvin Gordon and Latavius Murray, who Latavius Murray they signed off the streets 2 weeks ago. So definitely needed some running back help. Definitely need that to reestablish what this team is supposed to be with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon to start the year. Um, I mean, the receivers are good. We know that. We know Jerry Jeudy is great. We know that Cortland Sutton's great. Dolchich is also really come on as a tight end that they've elevated the last couple of weeks. He's been great. I think he could be a weapon for them going forward. But I mean, it's just kind of too little to feel like for goes as well. They win this game, sure. Maybe they start to build a little momentum. I mean, but they'll have to go on a heck of a run to really have a chance of making, because they're not, let's be honest, they're not going to win the AFC West. The Chiefs are got that pretty much in hand. And the wild card race, the way it's shaking out right now, is going to be a dogfight. So, I mean, you might have to be 10-7 to even go down to tiebreakers. So, we'll see what happens there. But, I mean, it's pretty much both these team seasons are probably over at this point, which is crazy to say. We're in week 9 now, and I just both these teams are, they're just too far behind to catch up.
Yeah, Cecil mentioned running backs. They have Marlon Mack on their practice squad. They also, in that deal that sent Bradley Chubb to Miami, they also have, they also got Chase Edmonds in that deal. Miami wasn't really using them. So they just have like the island of misfit toys there. It is Christmas season now because it's November 3rd, as everyone's gonna find when they walk to any store
It's
ever.
Thanksgiving season.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. But you're already hearing Christmas songs. But yeah, it's this.
Let's make a
Let's make a what?
slowly push away Thanksgiving. It's a holiday. It's been a holiday. Don't let these people just push away Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a season. It's fall. Leaves are turning still. Thanksgiving doesn't start until Santa shows up in the Macy's Day Parade on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That's when Christmas season starts.
I will. I'm going to stick with the analogy of Island of Misfit Toys because they got Javonte Williams in IR. They have Melvin Gordon, who's been benched. They have Latavius Murray, who's every team's guy. He's played on every team at this point as his backup. They have Marlon Mack, who's played on 3 teams this year. They've got Chase Edmonds, who I thought he looked pretty good with Arizona the last couple of years, and then Miami didn't use him. And yeah, I mean that's just a hodgepodge. Mike Boone's on IR, as you said, so it's weird back there. But I think we're finding out maybe Russell Wilson needs that running game. There was definitely times where let Russ cook was a thing, but I think he needs that running game to be successful. And that's not like a huge knock on him. A lot of quarterbacks need a running game to be successful too. So, but yes, they made that move for running backs. They are both likely out of the playoff contention. The Broncos would have to show us something that they just haven't shown, and they're 3-5, so they're still behind the ball there. All right, the Cowboys beat the Bears 49-29. Really quickly for the Cowboys, Dak Prescott looks really good with that thumb injury coming back. 21 of 27, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. 14 carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns for Tony Pollard. Ezekiel Elliott was out. That was a really good day for Tony Pollard. But see, we expected this from the Cowboys, so I don't want to go into too much more detail there personally. The Bears are the story here because they put up a lot of points against the Dallas defense that was playing at an elite level. I do like what Luke Getsy has done. We mentioned it when we made this pick last week. We said, hey, you have to keep on doing what Justin Fields is good at. That's rollouts, that's read options, that's using his legs, and also what your offense is good at, which is running the ball traditionally. And they used both David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert to do that. So while Cowboys get the win, that's important. They're 6-2. NFC East is very tough. Bears 3-5 now. I don't know about playoffs in the future, but they look like they understand what they need to do. And they made comments in the post-game press conferences of we took some plays out of the Ravens playbook. Well, yeah, that makes sense because you have a quarterback who can run. And then they traded for Chase Claypool as well. So while Dallas gets the win, and I'm sure they're happier at this moment, the Bears, I think, are showing some signs of life that the franchise might be moving in the right direction, even if it's not for this year.
Right. No, that's really the kind of silver lining of this game for the Bears. I mean, played well. I mean, they put up more points in this game than anyone would have ever expected. And it's all because, like you said, I mean, they finally used Justin Fields effectively. And not just because it was raining outside. They finally decided we should just do this all the time. It shouldn't really matter. Of course, they should borrow from the Ravens. If you look at the typical quarterback in the NFL right now, it's Lamar Jackson. And Justin Fields is a pretty similar skill set in a lot of ways. Um, so I mean, they played really well. I mean, I think he got 80 yards rushing on the ground as well. I mean, they were moving the ball, and I mean, it's a hard threat. And if the Bears commit to it, it's a hard thing to really cover if you're a defense because you got to put somebody as a spy because you're always worried about somebody escaping the pocket. And once that happens, there's one less man in coverage, and there's just so many more things you can do. In worst case, yeah, if they don't put a spy down, you make them pay for it with your legs. Um, this coaching staff isn't as committed to Justin Fields, so I mean, there's always the injury concern, but I don't know if they're really that concerned with that because I don't know if they even see him as his guy at this point. So see what you got, do well, try it this season. The rest of it isn't really about a playoff spot for them. It's about creating an identity you can take into next year, build around, and can compete in a very weak NFC next year. I mean, they traded for Chase Claypool. That was a great deal for them. Second round pick. I don't get his value through this year. He is a young player still. He's had some good seasons in the past as well. But, I mean, he's definitely better than all the receivers on the Bears roster right now. So it's definitely an upgrade. I think they may have paid a little too much, but at the same time, if they like him, they like, the chemistry he might be able to develop over a couple of years with Justin Fields, and he can get a true, solid. I'm not going to call Chase Claypool number one receiver, but they can get a solid, kind of like Chase Claypool could be a number two guy for sure. He'd be a very good number two receiver. If they at least get that, maybe draft a guy, maybe see what is in the free agent market out there. I mean, they could get Justin Fields some real weapons because the running game's real. The offensive line is getting a little better. It still has a long way to go as well. And there's a lot of pieces on the defense still. So if they commit to Justin Fields and they commit to that style of play, they can be a much better team.
Absolutely. I think, like you said, Chase Claypool is number two. Darnell Mooney can be number three on an NFL team, maybe number two, but I still think of him as more number three. This offseason, go get him a number one. Go fix that offensive line some more, and then go build that defense back up, Cease, because they did trade Roquan Smith, as we mentioned. They did trade Robert Quinn. There's not much left on that defense besides the young guys they have drafted over this past draft. Jaquan Brisker's been having a really good rookie season, so the expectation the rest of this year should be just make sure Justin Fields is the guy, keep on running the offense like that, and then next year, this offseason, when they have more picks to use because of these trades, go get some help for Justin Fields as a wide receiver, go replace some of these guys you traded, and you could actually set this thing up pretty nicely. NFC South game, we have the Atlanta Falcons beating the Panthers 37-34 in overtime. Crazy finish here. We have the Panthers down at the last minute. Don't think anything's going to happen here, Cease. We're watching on Red Zone. We're kind of thinking like, okay, this is probably over. Then P.J. Walker throws the longest pass through the air that we have seen in the next generation since 2015. 62 yards through the air to DJ Moore. DJ Moore scores it. That ties up the game at 34 for the Panthers and Falcons, and then gets a flag for taking off his helmet. What is being told to us now on Twitter and in all these reports is that it shouldn't have been a flag because he actually walked off the field while he took his helmet off, so that shouldn't have been a flag. Anyway, they moved the extra point back because there was a flag. Eddie Pinheiro has to hit like a 47-yard field goal to make it to win the game for an extra point here, and then he misses it for the Panthers, misses a field goal in overtime. The Falcons get a field goal by Young Hoku, one of our favorite kickers, and they win the game. And the Falcons now 4-4, looking pretty good in that NFC South. I mean, I know it's not the way you want to win games with this kind of ugly fashion, but the NFC South is such a mess. They might screw around and win this thing.
Yeah, I mean, what an end to a game. I mean, first, that whole play, you watch it, and you just see some of the sloppy secondary prevent play of all time. I mean, you watch DJ Moore start running. He's double covered, obviously. Mm-hmm. The safety starts to come down to help the corner, and they both kind of just stand, basically, lateral to each other, like horizontal, both of them just sitting there facing DJ Moore, and then DJ Moore kind of just slows down. He's not even running full speed the whole time. He's kind of probably giving about 60-70% down the field. Mm-hmm. And then, they both finally get to him, and they both kind of stand there. And, they kind of slow down to match his speed because in case he moves. And he's sitting in the middle of them. He just sprints right past both of them. And at that point, as soon as P.J. Walker saw, they just chucked the ball as hard as he could downfield, and it worked. But, I mean, that's some of the most – that's pretty bad secondary play. I mean, situational football-wise, I mean, that was some of the dumbest things I've ever seen. If you're a safety, you should never just sit there with the with the corner and just sit literally parallel to the receiver, because guess what's going to happen? Exactly what just did, especially if it's someone of DJ Moore's caliber. So it's good for DJ Moore, though. What happened after, we found out it's not supposed to be a penalty, but at the same time, it's pretty close to that area, and why even risk? It's not, you didn't win the game, you tied the game, and there's a chance for you guys to win it. Celebrate for a quick second, but don't do anything too excessive. Don't do anything crazy. Just celebrate for a couple seconds and get off the field. You start running around, you start taking your helmet off. Refs are going to probably throw less of celebration a lot of times. Just be smart. I like celebrations as much as anybody, but you got to be smart enough to know, like, we still need to kick an extra point to win this game. Obviously he doesn't control the kicker, misses it, but he makes it more difficult. And, it's a team sport at the end of the day. Everyone, is accountable for the win and loss. You can't blame one person, but at the same time, you can't not take any responsibility at all either. So then they miss, kicker misses another field goal in overtime, and the Falcons end up pulling it out. And they are lucky they did, because they probably didn't deserve to win that football game after giving up that big play at the end of the game. So Falcons advance, though. I mean, we're talking, they really are. I think they're winning the NFC South right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In the standings, which is crazy at 4-4. Honestly, I wish I had put money on the NFC South to begin the year, because their outs were so crazy. It was like 50. So if any lucky, crazy Falcons fans out there decided the Falcons were going to win the division this year, and you put some money down, you might get a nice return. So good.
Absolutely.
There's always a chance, though, Tom Brady.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Cease.
No. There's always a chance, though, Tom Brady turns it on.
Oh, absolutely there is. But there's Falcons fans out there who put like $2 down on the Falcons, $5 down on the Falcons to win the division. They're going to come back with like $60 or something like that. So happy for those people. The Panthers, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, they may have fired Matt Rule too soon, because they got a win after he was fired against the Bucks. And in another game, this was the next game after that, they almost beat the Falcons on the road. And we know the Falcons are still going through like a rebuilding phase and everything, but still leading the division. They almost got that win. So they have now currently played themselves out of having a chance to pick one of the top two quarterbacks. And they might, if they go one more win, it might end up that way. There's still a lot of season left. I think the Panthers aren't that good of a team, so we'll see, but just, you got to be careful what you do. I know they wanted people to buy tickets this year, and that's why they fired Matt Rule, to get people to buy in this year, but what are we doing? If you're the Panthers next year and you have like the third best quarterback in the draft, it's not going to fix your issues, so I don't get that. All right, the Dolphins beat the Lions 31-27. The Dolphins remain undefeated when Tua starts and finishes the game. He had 382 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tuanon is real. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both had big days. They are both killing it. They are, going to be probably the two of the best receivers in the league by themselves, and then you add them in a duo. They probably are the best duo this season, just playing very, very well. The Lions got off to a hot start, couldn't finish the game. We know that their defense is bad. The offense got that hot start, but then it stalled in the second half. We've talked about it for weeks, but, every week that it goes on, the Lions just look more and more bad, and it looks more and more like Dan Campbell's going to be fired.
Yeah, I'm starting to say I don't think Dan Campbell's going to be the coach, but I think he'll let him finish the year. There's really no point in not, but he's going to be the head coach of the Detroit Lions next year, unfortunately, as much as that pains me to say, because I'm rooting for him. But like you said, every second half they blow the game. They have a good offensive first half. They score a lot of points. They're like, wow, the Lions are going to really just take this one. And then the defense just starts giving up points in bunches. The offense is going 3 and out. It's just a complete night and day scenario. At this point, there's not much more you can point to. Coaching. Because, at a certain point, your team up by so much, you can do a lot of things on defense. You can do a lot more things on offense. And it's just the game flow, everything about it just goes to hell in the second half. And they've lost the second half leading by a good amount. They've been in a lot of close games, and they end up losing them because of just we got people fumbling on goal lines. We got people, we got 3-and-out drives. We've got missed tackles. We've got every like sloppy play in the book, and it's really hurting them. It's hurt them this entire season. I mean, this team could play with a lot of teams. They could play close, and I mean, they give themselves a chance to win a lot of times, but it's hard to win if defense is giving up 7 points every time the offense takes the ball. So I feel bad for them. They need to figure something out soon. Or, I mean, I think it might be already too late. TJ Hawkinson got traded away. He was probably not going to reach out with the Lions anyway, but still, they're starting to trade people off because they know the season's kind of over. So everyone on there is playing and coaching for their job at this point. If you're the Miami Dolphins, you look pretty good. In the second half, you back. You didn't get on defense, didn't either. But they came back and they won the game. That like you said, that receiver duo and Tua look fantastic. Raheem Mostert's really come on as the running back. And the defense, they're going to get Byron Jones back at some point here. They've got some pretty good players in the secondary, and they traded a first-round pick for Bradley Chubb. So, and some other picks as well, considerations, and Chase Edmond over. I believe it was the Denver Broncos. Yes. So, I mean, that's a huge addition as well. Bradley Chubb is a great pass rusher. And, I mean, they're really showing that they're all in right now. If Tua can stay healthy and keeps performing at this level, I mean, they're going to make a playoff spot. I mean, I don't beat Bills necessarily for the division. I don't know if they'll beat the Bills in the playoffs, but I mean, put themselves in a place to make sure they're going to be right there with them. They're going to be either a very dangerous wild card, or they're going to somehow take this from Buffalo. Good for them for being aggressive. I'm sure they had to give up a first-round pick, but ultimately, they wanted to make a splash. They wanted to be aggressive because they see, this offense with Tua, if he stays healthy, I mean, they can make some noise. And, when your team's playing well and you feel like you are confident in it, make a move and do something aggressive, because you never know what's going to happen next year. You don't know what injuries are going to pile up. You just never know when you're going to make it back, and you don't want to sit there and lose out by just a few inches, just so close in some of these playoff games. And no, you didn't do everything you could to make your team competitive, but also, not mortgage your complete future away.
Yeah, the Dolphins have turned a lot of different things and like a lot of picks into Tyreek Hill and everything. They are going for it. I think they're Super Bowl contenders. I'll go ahead and say it. I think they really are. They have won every game Tua started and finished. We talked about that. They have kept Mike Gesicki, who I know not your favorite tight end, but a very good weapon. They have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. They're adding Jeffrey Wilson to the running game, so that running game can get better. They went and got Teron Armstead at left tackle, one of the best in the game. That defense hasn't been as good as we thought, but they still have their really good corners. They have Javon Holland at safety, and now you get Bradley Chubb to rush the passer too. I mean, this is a team. I'm not saying they're better than the Bills or the Chiefs or anything, but this could be a team like the Bengals were last year, where they, no one really expected them to be, I don't know, maybe not the worst team in the league, maybe not the best team in the league, probably in the middle, but now they're trending towards a team that I might not want to see in the playoffs. Obviously, it's a little bit different. Maybe there's a matchup that doesn't go their way. Maybe they got to play in Buffalo where it's really cold and that affects things. But, I mean, you look at their schedule the next 3 games. They got the Bears, the Browns, and the Texans. They could be sitting here at what, 8-3? Like, they're for real. They're going to be tough to beat. All right, next game up, we have the Vikings beating the Cardinals 34-26. The Vikings are probably the, I don't know, least talked about 6-1 team I can remember in league history. That's probably goes without saying. I mean, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback. They lose on primetime games. They win on 1 p.m. games. Well, this was a 1 p.m. game, so that's what happened. Kyler Murray played decently well, but it was the week after a Call of Duty game came out, so they lose by 8. The Cardinals, again, we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, just not a very good football team this year. They need to fire Cliff Kingsbury, start anew, see if there's a coach out there who can work with Kyler Murray, and also get that defense fixed.
Yeah, defense is a big problem. DeAndre Hopkins is back for the Cardinals. He's been played really, so there's that. But yeah, the Vikings, they keep rolling. I mean, there's out with them. I mean, it's the it's the Dalvin Cook show, and Kirk Cousins just is the steady hand of the ship as long as it's in the middle of the day on Sunday. I mean, the reason I'm not talking about that much is because they just, I mean, who really beat? I mean, they lost to the Eagles. They walloped them first week, but now we see where the Packers are, and that's not really an impressive win. And from there, Cardinals. I mean, you go through all these games, and there's no one in there. I went, wow, the Vikings really have like a here, and that sometimes you get to the middle of the season like this. You're a team, you didn't finish first in your division. You're kind of just playing a softer schedule. Nothing's really been that hard. You haven't really had many injuries. And that's really what I'm in here. I mean, they're going to win the NFC North. It looks like by default at this rate as well, just because they're so far ahead of the Packers. But I mean, they just don't seem that battle tested, and it seems like the one game they did play a pretty good upper level team, the Eagles smashed them. And, Kirk Cousins did horribly. So yeah, it's hard to really just say, yeah, the Vikings are a really good team. I mean, they're a good team. I'm not saying they're bad by any means. I mean, they have enough to win the NFC North for sure. But I mean, come playoff time, I'm not really wowed by them. I do like the addition of T.J. Hawkinson, especially with Irv Smith being out for the year with an ACL injury, I believe. So I mean, that was a great move for him. I love T.J. Hawkinson. I think he's a great tight end in the league, and I think he hasn't been as utilized or as good as we had hoped, just because, the Lions have been kind of ineffective throughout his career. So, I mean, that's good to get another weapon. Is that going to make or break the Vikings being good or bad? I don't think so. I think a lot of this team is just going to come down to if they can really turn on come playoff time and Justin Jefferson just plays out of his mind. Because other than that, Adam Thielen's really regressing. He's still there at times, but, he's definitely getting older. He's definitely lost a step. Dalvin Cook's great. And, there's some pieces on defense, but nothing on the defense is really amazing by any means. It's really just going to come down to, can Kirk Cousins play really well when they make the playoffs? And, I'm not putting money on that bet because all sources say that he's going to just shell up like he usually does and they're going to be out in the first round.
Oh wow. Okay, calling it now. No, I think the Vikings are good. I like Kevin O'Connell. I think they're going to be possibly one of these teams. NFC, we have a lot of question marks happening. If they avoid playing maybe the Eagles or Cowboys first round, I think they could maybe win a game or two, maybe make the NFC Championship. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it and we see the matchups. Right now, they're probably going to make the playoffs and probably win the NFC North, like you mentioned. All right, the Raiders at the Saints. Saints win 24-0. Andy Dalton was officially named the starter, even with Jameis Winston healthy. Alvin Kamara had 3 touchdowns, caught a lot of passes too. That's what kind of gave them the win. And the Raiders, if they would have won this game, they could have maybe worked their way back to it. They would have been 3-4, but they're 2-5 now, and just everything they imagined with the season with Chandler Jones and Devontae Adams coming in is just off the rails. So Saints stay in contention in the NFC South, which no one wants to win. The Raiders in that tough AFC West. I mean, there's just no way they come back from this.
No, I mean, the Raiders are done. I mean, Josh McDaniels probably should just get fired. It's really that simple. I mean, how they started the season, how they blew that big lead to Arizona, early in the season as well. And I mean, the whole point was he's supposed to be in here. He was really supposed to help Derek Carr keep playing elite level. And Derek Carr threw for 100 yards. I don't care if all your receivers are injured. I mean, Devontae Adams was in there 100%. Darren Waller was out. And I know they don't have a ton of weapons, but 100 yards passing? I mean, like, decade are we in? Is this like did they invent the forward pass? Even then, like 100 yards for an NFL quarterback is abysmal. I mean, Josh Jacobs had, a good amount of rushing yards and everything, but your offense, should be able to get you more than 100 yards passing in the passing game. If you can't, I really don't know what you're doing on offense. I don't know how ineffective you can really be. Mm-hmm. Uncreative you can be to not get 100 over like 100. I think it was 100 and it was less than 125 yards, I believe. I don't know the exact stat, but I looked at that stat line and absolutely outrageous. So, I mean, we've seen Derek Carr put up good seasons. We've seen Derek Carr put up a lot of yards, and now this offense looks like it literally is unable to do anything at all. It was just flat out bad. The Saints really aren't that good a team. You know, well at times they have a good defense, but whatever that was on, and there was some games this week that were just weird. This is one of them where it's just like, the team was completely ineffectual and it looked like they were sleepwalking through the game. So, yeah, if I'm the Raiders at this point, I don't know how much more of the Josh Daniels experiment you need. It's not working. I don't think it's ever going to work. There's nothing I say that Josh Daniels has made this team better. If anything, it's just made them all worse from last year. This team was able to make the playoffs, obviously, due to some crazy circumstances with that Chargers game and everything, the last game of the season last year. But they had Rick Versace just take over the team middle of the year, and they came roster was good enough to make a playoff spot. This year you had Devontae Adams, you had Chandler Jones, and the team is way worse. Now, they didn't win the division last year, so their schedule isn't that much crazier. They just suck at times. Their offense is not good, and we know the defense doesn't have that much talent on it to really elevate and be that dominant. So, I mean, this has been a complete failure of a season for the Raiders. If I'm the owner, if I'm Mark Davis, it's time to just tell Josh Daniels it's time to pack it up. It's just not working.
I would do the same thing. I thought this was one of the dumber hires that we've seen in the offseason. It just didn't make any sense. If you remember, what came out this offseason was when the Broncos, he used to videotape the other team's practices, and they got off to a 6-0 start. And since that point, his head coaching record is awful. He should never been given a second chance. He's not the next Bill Belichick. He learned from Bill Belichick. That's cool. Under Bill Belichick, he can be successful. When he gets his own show, he's not going to be that guy. And the Raiders are suffering. They're finding out why. They should have known. They had an up-close look at him when he was coaching the Broncos. They've obviously been in the AFC playing the Patriots over the years. Josh McDaniels is not the guy. So, I don't know. The Saints win the game. I'm not really sure how I feel about them right now either. Definitely a team that can still make the playoffs, but probably just because NFC South is so bad. The Patriots beat the Jets 22-17. Somewhat of a boring game. It was close, but somewhat boring. Anyone who was looking for a quarterback controversy to be solved, Mac Jones did start the whole game. Didn't really look that good when he was doing it. I mean, 80-something yards passing. Not that great, but the Patriots, they're going to be a team who's going to sit right around 500 all year, maybe make the playoffs. And the Jets, I mean, you want to win this game at home. You want to beat the Patriots at home because you had started off the year so hot. You'd beaten some decent teams. But now my fear is that they're going to revert back to what they were because, you beat the Packers. We know the Packers are struggling this year. You beat the Broncos. We know the Broncos are struggling this year. You beat the Dolphins without Tua. You beat the Steelers, and you beat the Browns. I mean, there's some decent teams, but you have the next two games you have on the schedule are the Bills and the Patriots. You could easily be 5-5 after 10 weeks, which going into the year you would take, but in terms of making the playoffs in this tough AFC, I don't know if that's going to work.
Right. They're really on a skid right now. I mean, Zach Wilson really needs to step up. It's that simple. I mean, a lot of what we said all year is, they've won some games against some teams who really haven't been, elite or anything like that. And I mean, it's really going to come down to his development. If he can really become the passer they drafted him to be. I mean, they drafted him second overall. And they brought him in order to be the next answer as a franchise quarterback there for the Jets. And as of right now, you look at all the more advanced metrics and things, he's near the bottom of all the starting quarterbacks. He's 30 to 32 in pretty much almost every major category. So, I mean, they've got weapons out there for him. It's not receivers who have some flash. They lost Breece Hall, obviously, so that hurt their offense. And, they've got a lot of good players on defense as well. Robert Saleh is a defensive coach in the end. He coached those really elite 49ers teams that went to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, the defense is going to be good, and the offense has shown a lot of promise at times. They have a lot of injuries now. They haven't had Mekhi Becton all year. Elijah Vera is out, for the year as well. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to fall on Zach Wilson to be able to become a quarterback that can rely on. Maybe he doesn't have to be elite, but it has to be at least an above-average quarterback they know is going to, have a chance to win them games and things. So, I mean, I'm not trusting the Jets. I mean, they're probably going to go 5-5. I bet in the next 2 games. I mean, Zach Wilson looked confused and lost. A lot of interceptions were thrown against the Patriots. I don't expect that to change in the second game play in 2 weeks. And I mean, they're not going to beat the Bills. So yeah, a lot for them. The Patriots. It's just a weird vibe of a team right now. I mean, you look at them, you look at what they've done. You know, their body of work. It's Bill Belichick, and you're like, I mean, maybe they'll go on a run. You never know. They manage to just beat some teams you don't expect them to at all because they just have a really good game plan the other team doesn't expect. And it's starting to get colder. Teams have to go play in Foxborough, and it can be snowing. It can be really cold. Once we hit November, December, you never know what kind of weather you might get. So, I mean, that can play to the advantage. I mean, they are a fringe wild card team right now. That's where they are. They're not ever going to do anything flashy, but I mean, if it comes down to tiebreakers, they can beat other same talent level just because they have such an edge in coaching of Belichick at times. So, yeah, that's really all it is there. The Jets are fading. The Patriots, same level. Is Mac Jones the answer? Who I can't really say he is. I mean, Bailey Zappi has shown more to me in the games he's been there than Mac Jones has this year. And I mean, I don't fear of them. You change the quarterback, it really change. I mean, as long as you just stick with one of them going forward, I don't think it's really going to change the makeup or the outcome of the season by very much for the Patriots.
I would agree. I would like to see more Bailey Zappi. I think he's probably has a chance to do a little bit better. But you're right. They're either way. They're going to be fringe playoff team, fringe 500 team. So what rate do you really make that change? All right, the battle for Pennsylvania. The Eagles beat the Steelers 35-13. I don't have much on this one. A.J. Brown had a really good day, but this was good team versus bad team. Good team won.
Right. It's true. I told you. I mean, the Eagles were going to do really well. I mean, the Eagles always do really well at home against the Steelers every time. The last 2 times. So this time and 4 years before. So, yeah. I mean, the Eagles are a good football team. Again, I think they need to play somebody of a higher talent. I mean, they played the Cowboys without Dak. I mean, it's a weird vibe too because we just put them on the same level as the Bills and Chiefs right now. We just don't. I mean, they're great. I think they can win. They can win the NFC. I mean, it could be that, but I want to see another. I'd love to see what they do. It's just such a strong NFC, and they're pretty much all in the NFC. They're all in the NFC. And right now, I know the Eagles are better than the Giants just because they don't have the talent that the Eagles do, and the boys, very well and losing down. So, and I mean, we'll see how they do against the NFC West teams. I think they're much better than both of them. What the Seahawks and 49ers are right now, but. Yeah, it's just a weird thing to just be like, yeah, I mean, the Eagles are great, but I don't think they're elite. I usually don't think of them as like a Super Bowl contender with what I've seen on the field so far. But, I mean, they're just beating up on these teams. And, I mean, they kind of – somebody said in the Tout broadcast this week, they kind of reinvented the triple option for the new age. And it kind of looks that way a lot of times because, I mean, a lot of teams are just not staying disciplined and they're just losing on simple things because, I mean, the play mechanics aren't that crazy. It's Jalen Hurts is going to take the run. Jalen Hurts is going to hand it off to Miles Sanders, or pretty much Jalen Hurts is going to throw it. It's one of the three, and usually the pass is a quick, shallow crosser across the middle of the field. So that's a lot of their offense. If teams can figure out how to actually effectively manage that, I think the offense, and it seems like they do a lot once they go into the second half. If teams can start managing that more, the Eagles might be in some trouble. But at the same time, they traded well to get Robert Quinn on the defense, which was a great pickup for them. I think that would really help. They love having a lot of rotational guys in that defensive line that's always been pretty good and was honestly the big heart of their Super Bowl success in the run a couple years ago. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to like with this Eagles team. How is Jalen Hurts going to go up in playoff time against some elite teams? I think he'll do okay. The other thing is you talk about the NFC playoffs, you talk about elite teams, and there really aren't any. There's some really good teams like them and the Cowboys. You got the Vikings there. Maybe they give them a better showing, but it's just not the same as if they were in the AFC. It'd be a lot more of a it's gonna be a hard uphill battle to really beat some of the best teams.
Yeah, the rest of their schedule though seems pretty easy. I mean, they got the Cowboys another time. They got the Titans. They got the Packers if we think the Packers are figuring that out. But they could be like a team that finishes like 14, 15 wins. And that's gonna be the key. When you get home field advantage, you get the bye. I mean, that's gonna be nice. So the Eagles beating up on these teams early, but this honestly the schedule sets up well for them too. If they can even win some of those games, I don't want to say they're going to go 17-0, but they could be at a point where we get to the point where every media outlet's starting to talk about it. We're not there yet. It's going to happen if they win a couple more games, and they probably will. So good for the Eagles to get the win. Steelers still rebuild mode. They traded for William Jackson. They traded away Chase Claypool. I think it's both smart moves for what they're getting, and we'll see what they do in the future. All right, we told everyone to run to the casino and bet on the Titans to beat the Texans by more than 2 points. Titans won 17-10. Derrick Henry had a huge day. He always plays well against the Texans. But again, this is just another case of good team versus bad. We got to see Malik Willis in this game, but at the end of the day, it was all about Derrick Henry. All right, well, we'll move on then. Let's go to the Commanders and the Colts. The Commanders win 17-16. They needed some heroics by Taylor Heineke. He played pretty terribly in the first half, and then ended up coming back in the second half. That's the Taylor Heineke experience, though. You never know what you're going to get out of the guy. He plays one half bad, one half good. It's sometimes great, but it's exhilarating television. Sam Ellinger, as we mentioned, though, just not the guy for the Colts. They fired their offensive coordinator this week. The Colts are a team that really needs to figure things out in the future with the quarterback position. But the Commanders get a big win, and if they're not in the NFC East, watch out. They could have had a way better record.
Yeah, technical difficulties there. But honestly, it worked out because that's pretty much as I had to say about the Titans-Texans game. So, yeah, real quick on that one. Derrick Henry just ran through him, and it was an easy game. The Titans could just sit around and wait from there. So that's that. The Washington Commanders game, in the Colts game, Tyler Heineke he should just start. The Commanders just need to give up on this whole dream of a better quarterback and just go with Taylor Heineke, because that's the only way they seem to win games, no matter their Band-Aid effort to replace Taylor Heineke is someone who's always marginally better and has a bunch of question marks of, they've had a success of maybe being a little better than Taylor Heineke, but they're also on the back end of their career. Maybe they'll have this magical season where they somehow play like an MVP they did 5 years ago before they got hurt 3 times. That's pretty much the whole command strategy at this point. Meanwhile, Taylor Heineke has never been full-on given the starting job. It's always begrudgingly, as I guess we have nobody else, we're going to start you. And it's not pretty, it's not great, but he wins games, and that's something in the NFL. A guy who situationally knows what to do and knows what the task is at hand. Having a great quarterback is something you want in the NFL, but if you've got nothing in that kind of category, you don't have one of the top 10, 15 guys. Is Taylor Heineke really worse than the rest of the marginal quarterbacks by that much? And if you gave him a full fair shot at the offense, would it be better? It looks like it. It looks like he gets Terry McLaurin more involved. The running game really wasn't there in this game because the Colts are just have a pretty good defense, especially against the run. But at last, he was playing his heart out, and they got the win. And the other quarterbacks they brought in over the last couple of years haven't shown that fight. So Heineke has that dog in him, and just start him the rest of the year and see what happens. And I know maybe the Commanders still can't seem to figure out quarterback. If they can't get somebody good in the draft, how many more years are let's go find some middling free agent instead of just using that money elsewhere to build a team around Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, I would say for the rest of the season, start Taylor Heineke. It's fun and see what happens. And then if you get a chance to draft a quarterback, maybe do so. If you don't, then don't. I mean, Sam Howell's also back there too as a good prospect. But for right now, he's fun. He makes things interesting. See the other news. The Commanders might be sold now. Dan Snyder has acquired. I think he's hired BOFA, which is Bank of America, but they shortened it to BOFA for some reason, and they will look into selling parts of the team, the full team. Um, so we'll see what that transpires and what goes on here. But that could be a good new chapter for Washington.
No, 100%. Also, who shortens? Well, Bank of America is a great name. It's something like everybody wants to be like the company that got to the name first to be like Bank of America, even though it's not true that they're the Bank of America. It makes them sound like they're like the central bank. So changing it to BOFA just sounds
Yeah.
awful. It sounds like a third tier Star Wars planet or character. So um, not a great name change. I'm going to give it an F on the name change for Bank of America to BOFA. But I'm going to give an A to the NFL for basically finally forcing Dan Snyder to try to sell the team. That man is a walking PR nightmare. He doesn't deserve to own an NFL team at this point. He has done everything possible to make sure the Commanders are an unsuccessful NFL franchise, and I mean, he's created a very toxic place. And I mean, at this point, if Dan Snyder sells the team, maybe it's time to just clean house because how much more Ron Rivera's team is doing well, because Ron Rivera doesn't look like his team's not doing very well, and it doesn't look like he really has it, had success or has been able to work with what the pieces he has. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's time to just completely clean up the Commanders organization from top down, coaching, general manager, and obviously get Dan Snyder out of there. That's the most important thing. But yeah, maybe it's time for the fans of Washington, because I know they've been through a lot of pain through the years. They had RG3 for a year, and then from there, it was the Kirk Cousins mediocrity show, and then it's only gotten from that to worse. So maybe new things are happening, but please, love of God, make him just sell the whole team, or at least enough where I never have to hear or talk about him again.
That'd be nice. If Bofa doesn't work out, they're going to move on to Ligma or whatever you have you. But just in this day and age, they have to know better. That's just set up. 49ers beat the Rams 31 to 14. Cease. I think the Rams' issues are still there. The 49ers were able to use Christian McCaffrey effectively. He's fully, I guess, in the offense now. Jimmy Garoppolo had his normal game, which was efficient, didn't really do anything to wow you, and that's what he has to do if this team's going to go far in the playoffs like you predict.
Thank you for that plug.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, they did really well in this game. The offense was really firing all cylinders. I mean, Chris McCaffrey got the triple threat, passing touchdown, running touchdown, and receiving touchdown. So, I mean, do more of that. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, as long as he just doesn't throw interceptions and doesn't, throw for 100 yards like Derek Carr did, they're going to be in a place to win a lot of games. I mean, the 49ers are a really good defense, and they have Christian McCaffrey now. They're going to get Elijah Mitchell back from IR, in the next couple weeks as well, to have a nice 1-2 running back combo. And you can also use both of them on plays because, I mean, Christian McCaffrey can go anywhere on the field. You got Deebo Samuel. You got a lot of weapons who are versatile. And a lot of versatile weapons on the field at the same time makes it very hard for defense to key in on what's going to happen next. So I think this team is going to get better throughout the rest of the season. I think they're pretty much with Christian McCaffrey, what we saw in this game, and then beating the Rams, another divisional rival. I mean, it's a two-horse race in the NFC West between them and the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are more of a balanced team, with Geno Smith at quarterback, and the 49ers are, but I think the 49ers are plus in some other areas. So it's going to be interesting to see when they play what the outcome is going to be, because, I mean, I think both teams at this point are going to make the playoffs. It's just going to be a question of who wins the division, and it's all going to come down to those head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, Will, and you mentioned the Seahawks. Let's just get right to it, Cease. Seahawks win 27 to 13 over the Giants. Home field advantage. Giants went across country. I still think Brian Dable is getting about as much as he can out of this talent, if not even more than we thought. But that's a tough game. They might be able to bounce back. They might fade and be frauds too. Who knows? But Either way, this game will not be like the deciding factor of that. Seahawks win the game, and also they start talking trash in the media about how it's great if no one cares who gets credit, you can be a good team, and they've I think embodied that. Like they don't have star players, they really don't. They DK Metcalf is the biggest star they have on the team. He's not even a top 5 or so receiver in the league. He'll probably be right behind that, but other than that, they really don't have stars. They have young guys. They have Geno Smith. They got young guys on defense. Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant playing corner, who are both playing very well. Um, this is a football. This is the most football team of all football teams. There's no stars. It's just everyone buying in and winning games. Pete Carroll, much like Kevin O'Connell, much like Brian Dable, very much in the conversation for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, and I mean, it's true. Like, it's the ultimate team sport. That's what football is. That's what anyone who's ever played the game will tell you. Because individuals are great, but the is the team around you. And if the team doesn't play as hard as they can, or you're not a good teammate, I mean, the play on the field suffers. And they don't have the distractions other teams have. Russell Wilson's gone. The whole trade Russell Wilson talk is over, and everyone kind of just forgot about him and didn't really think much about him or put much attention on him going into the season. So they've just been able to develop as a team without really the pressure of having to do anything. They just are a well-coached team. And, I mean, I'll give it to Pete Carroll. I mean, he's really not – his coaching style hasn't changed at all. It's just he got the right pieces to do what he needed to do to find an effective team, and he's revived Geno Smith's career. And, honestly, he finally decided to draft offensive linemen. I mean – 2 offensive linemen, I believe, in the first 3 rounds, their first-round pick. And, that stuff is something that he refused to do for so long, and it was something that really held them back. So that he's now done that has really helped them out a great deal. They have Abraham Lucas. They have Charles Cross over there. Those are 2 rookie linemen that have played decently well. And, I mean, Tariq Woolen has been great at cornerback. They just have a lot of young guys that are contributing quickly, and they're doing a great job doing so. So I'll give it to Pete Carroll. Like, it's not his complete coaching philosophy hasn't changed by any means. They just got the right pieces to do what they need to do to be a run-first team. And Geno Smith has looked great, to help complement that. So, I mean, it's a great success story. I'm really happy for him. It's the first year in a while I've kind of given up on the Seahawks in the playoffs because I've kind of bet on them because they have really high odds every year for the Super Bowl. And of course, this is the year that now I didn't bet anything, and odds would have been the highest as they've ever been. So, a little salty about that, but other than that, I mean, good for the Seahawks to finally put it together because we thought we were going to walk into a, probably 3 to 4 year rebuilding plan. And, last year I was saying Pete Carroll should be fired because they just looked so bad, and he didn't really adapt. So, I mean, great turnaround story for them. Giants travel all to Seattle from New York. That's a hard road game to win, as we've seen through the years. A lot of good teams travel from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they lose. So, yeah, a lot of things there to kind of take in. Ultimately, though, it's just one of those games. The Giants don't have the most talent. They're well coached, and I think they'll bounce back. They're still going to make the playoffs. I mean, this is just a hard game to win against a pretty good Seahawks team.
I would agree. We're really going to judge too much on the Giants for losing that game, but the Seahawks I'm still very impressed with. Let's move it on to the Sunday night game, Cease. The Bills played about as bad as they could have, and they still won 27-17 over the Packers. Josh Allen went 13 of 25, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs had a good day, but still just overall just not a good performance. They get the win. They're 6-1 now. The Packers still have all the issues we've talked about through the weeks, and then they didn't make a move for a wide receiver at the deadline this week. The only thing they've improved upon is they gave Aaron Jones the ball more, and that did pay off.
Yeah, I mean, that's really – you talk about this game, it kind of played out exactly how we expected. It's just kind of sad to watch Aaron Rodgers not be as aggressive anymore. And, we saw throughout that game that, he's not trying to take shots downfield because he just doesn't have the time to, and he's just trying not to get absolutely killed by Von Miller and the Bills' rushing defense. So, yeah, it's kind of sad to watch the team just not really help Aaron Rodgers, and it's hard to watch him just kind of lose the fight in him too, as much as sometimes it drives me insane. But yeah, Aaron Jones got the ball a lot, and it really did help the offense a great deal. Obviously, it's the Bills, though, so they're playing an elite team. If they play this way the rest of the season, the Packers can string together some wins and maybe make something happen in a weak NFC. But it's the Bills. You're going to have to play at a very elite level to beat the Bills, or the Bills are just going to have to play horribly. And, the Bills still kept making huge plays. And that was really it. Quay Walker got thrown out of the game for shoving a Bills assistant coach for some reason that still is not completely known to me. And it's just a boneheaded play in the first place. And then Devondre Campbell also went down and got hurt. So they were down two linebackers in the game within the first half. So it was just not a good formula for Green Bay. They weren't going to win the game in the first place, probably. It was good to see Aaron Rodgers connect on some good balls to Romeo Dobbs. And I mean, if they can get Alan Lazard back, if they can just form some kind of decent passing game and just really lean on Aaron Jones, I mean, that might be a success to make the playoffs. Are they going to do anything in the playoffs? I don't believe so, not even close. But I mean, that's the path forward of success with the team that they have on the field right now. Shame on them for losing out on the Brandon Cooks, sweepstakes. Just kind of not doing anything at the trade deadline at all. I mean, it's really unacceptable if you're the Packers and you're a team that's put so much money in Aaron Rodgers and there's only a year or two left. And boy, this year turns out it might just really force that retirement even quicker than you want. And you don't even really attempt to do anything to get him a receiver that clearly that's what this team needs. That's what this team is missing. They need a human being who is a good above, replacement level wide receiver. That's not a brand new rookie that Aaron Rodgers has to kind of develop chemistry with. Give professional like a Brandon Cooks. The Packers didn't end up doing anything, and it's just a huge blow. If anything, it might be the first just absolute F I give it the trade line. I don't put that much into it because it's just not a very effective time of year. But I mean, to do nothing when your team has some talent on it, you have Aaron Rodgers on the back end of his career, and you just go, no, I think we'll be fine with what we have when everyone else in America can sit there and watch and go, man, they need an actual receiver that's better than Alan Lazard and Romeo Dobbs and Randall Cobb. They need somebody that truly stretch the field. So Bills keep rolling though. I mean, that's what was going to happen in this game. And really at the end of the day, I'd rather talk about the Packers' inability to make a move when they need to desperately and just let the season slip away.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing to me is another team that just has everything in front of them and they can go make a move, and they didn't. We know Aaron Rodgers doesn't use rookie receivers very much as he doesn't use tight ends, and he doesn't trust them. He doesn't play aggressively with them. He doesn't take shots downfield with them. And that's why he needed to go get a veteran, and they didn't do it. So the Packers' last 3 or 4 years have been total failures by the front office. I think Matt LaFleur has done a good job. I think Aaron Rodgers is still a very good quarterback, but it's a front office failure, and at the end of the day, it's going to look bad on everyone. Because if you get Aaron Rodgers and you don't go to the NFC Championship game, you don't go. I mean, at some point, if you don't win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers again, it's a failure. I mean, they've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back, and it just seems like they're so set on not spending the money on free agency. And when they do, they go get defensive free agents, not guys who can help Aaron Rodgers get this offense going again. So we'll see if anything happens in the future. Maybe they sign OBJ, and maybe they just give him enough money to make him consider it. But right now, if I were OBJ, I would not go to the Packers. All right, so it's Monday Night Football. Browns win 32-13. It was way worse of a game than even the score indicates because the Bengals didn't score until garbage time. Nick Chubb ran all over the defense. Amari Cooper had some big plays. Jacoby Brissett was efficient. And Myles Garrett showed us again that we cannot handle elite pass rushers for the Bengals. So I will let you take it away. I'm going to start my stopwatch now. It might be a while, but here we go.
I'm going to keep this brief so people don't just turn this off. But, I mean, just absolutely the worst game they played this season, worst game they played pretty much since they got walloped by the Browns last year. I don't understand what happens to the Cleveland Browns. The only thing I think of is, A, Myles Garrett is there and disrupts the line and doesn't give Joe Burrow the time to develop plays the way he wants to. Because for some reason, this offense doesn't have an answer if they can't develop deep shot plays that have long routes that take a long time to develop. For some reason, the offense, if they can't do that, doesn't know what to do. We've got Mike Thomas as our starting who can't drops passes in the middle of the field with no one around him because we didn't invest on depth. We've got offensive line play where if Jonah Williams is struggling against Myles Garrett, why do we continue to just let Myles Garrett and Jonah Williams go one-on-one with each other? What is – I mean, let's be honest here. That is just the stupidest thing you can do. I mean, it's fine if it happens a little bit in the first half, and then you make the adjustment. But no one did. I mean, throw Mitchell Wilcox in there as a human shield and just literally hit him and just double block him. Or have Cordell Volson shift out. Because you look at the formation for Cleveland Browns, all the defensive linemen, they're two. Neither of them are in the A gap. So you know from there you need to fan out, and two guys should probably always be blocking Myles Garrett 100% of the time. No one did that ever. Jonah Williams was one-on-one. Jonah Williams is not that good. I'm not saying he's the worst left tackle in football by any means, but should not be playing one-on-one against Myles Garrett, who's one of the best pass rushers in the league. Lazy defensive play. We've got guys, we watch guys, I mean, they're tired, sure, but we watch them just let Nick Chubb just run right past him. It's a 3rd and 6. Nick Chubb just runs to the left and runs for 10 yards. We've got, injuries in the secondary. Chidobe Williams tears the ACL. That's going to be really, a big blow for the Bengals. But besides that, we got Von Bell calling over the top to Amari Cooper and just walks over there, and Amari Cooper's able to run past both of them and score another touchdown at the beginning of the half, and that's the game. I mean, there were times where the Bengals could have gotten back into this game plenty of times, but they were just so ineffective on offense, and they just made so many boneheaded moves. They had so many injuries in defense that they were awful. It was one of the most frustrating games I've watched as a Bengals fan in a while. And it's against the Cleveland Browns every time, and it drives me absolutely insane that it's the Cleveland Browns. And I mean, if they lose this week to the Panthers, they're done. It's just that simple. The Bengals' whole season is over. I'm declaring it over. I mean, it's a tough uphill battle from here. And, that they didn't, make any moves to the trade deadline really is upsetting to me. Now we need Terry help. We need, maybe a wide receiver that isn't named Mike Thomas to catch passes when Jamar Chase goes down, or another receiver inevitably goes down. Because this offense, if you look, every time T. Higgins or Jamar Chase have been out, their offense becomes absolutely awful because their wide receiver 4 is a guy named Mike Thomas, who I wouldn't put on half the rosters of the NFL. So it's just a lot of ineffectualness from the play calling from Zach Taylor to being, uncreative and predictable once again, to not really fully understand the kind of game they're going to have to play in order to win. To, just the boneheaded moves by, Duke Tobin and the Brown family to decide, I just want to conserve as many draft picks as possible. I really don't want to do anything to get like an okay wide receiver that could really help on those 4 wide receiver outs. If you had a good fourth receiver, if you trade for any of the guys that got traded at the trade deadline, you don't need to throw a 1st round or 2nd round pick to Brandon Cooks. I totally understand that. I don't think that's worth it either, but I mean, you've got other middle-aged talent. You got Will Fuller, who's still sitting as a free agent somewhere. And you just have done nothing. And you continue to do nothing, and eventually it's just going to cause you guys all – it's going to miss the playoff at this rate. Playoffs, they have no one to blame but themselves. They have to beat the Panthers this week. I think they will. That makes them 5-4 at the bye, and they've got, games against the Chiefs, the Bills. They've got the Buccaneers. They got the Ravens again. They got the Browns again. They got the Steelers again. None of those games are easy games. They can win some of them, sure, but they have to win this week, go 5-4, and then they got to win probably 5 more games after that. That's just the reality. They got to win. They got to go 10-7 to really have a shot. And it's going to be hard to win 5 games with the remaining schedule. So I'm going to cap it at that. I'm upset. I'm in mourning for the Bengals season at this point. And if they don't have a better offensive solution they did against the Browns, against the Panthers, which they should, because, again, they're not going up against elite pass rushing defense. So that's when they can thrive. But, I mean, they got to do something. They got to fix this offense. And they got to, I mean, if you got to commit 2 guys to the top pass rusher, the stuff they did last year against the Steelers with TJ Watt, just do it. It's just that simple. Stop letting the same problems continue to build and cost you football games. It's poor adjustment and it's poor coaching.
All right, Cece. The over under was at 5 minutes. What do you think?
I think I went 7.
5 minutes, 45 seconds.
Ah,
There you go.
it's good.
The only thing I'll add is yes, I do not like that they were not aggressive at the trade deadline. While the front office has made moves to improve, they still have a lot to work on, right? Like you can't go improve the offensive line and then have an offensive line that struggles against elite pass rushers because guess what? You're going to face a lot of elite pass rushers in the playoffs. You can't leave wide receiver 4 completely just unattended and have Mike Thomas be there. They didn't get anyone this offseason. They've had plenty of time to get someone that, everyone says everyone would love to play with Joe Burrow. No, they didn't sign anyone. They haven't traded for anyone. They go draft guys in the first round that will not have an impact this year. Daxton Hill is a safety. He sometimes plays slot corner, but he is a safety, and now you're asking him possibly this upcoming week to play corner, something he has not practiced at outside corner since high school. This is dumb. This is dumb management. When you have a team who can win a Super Bowl, go try to win. Go be aggressive. Go get guys who are going to impact on the field now. Don't go try to replace Jesse Bates for next year. You know you have him this year. Don't try to replace him. Don't try to get Cam Taylor-Britt, who is a little bit more of a project in the second round. Just very, very dumb front office moves. They drafted Joe Burrow. That was great. That got him some good graces for the Bengals fans. But at the end of the day, they have to get this thing right. They have Joe Burrow for a couple more years. I don't know if it means Zach Taylor coaching staff need to be changed out and have someone who can handle elite pass rushers. I don't know what it is, but you can't sit there and not have these things attended and then just expect to win. You can't do that. That's just not how it works. So other teams are getting better in the offseason. The Bengals arguably got worse. They lost C.J. Uzomah. They replaced him with Hayden Hurst. That's probably even. Hayden Hurst may be a little bit better. They go draft guys who won't be on the field. They go lose Larry Ogunjobi. They don't go re-sign Quentin Spain. And now they have Cordell Volson, who's been okay, but Spain was, I think, a little bit better. There's a lot of things that are going on, and they also had better injury luck last year. This year they get guys coming out, and the offense just definitely takes a step backwards. I'm not liking this. They're getting beat by cover 2 defenses a lot. This is a basic coverage. They need to fix it. It's unacceptable at this rate. Hopefully they go on a run. We'll find out. All right. Week 9 picks, Cease. We have a bad Thursday Night Football game. We have the Eagles at the Texans. The Eagles are favored by 13.5 currently, and the Texans will be without Brandon Cooks, who is inactive.
Yeah, I'm going to go Eagles by a million here. Eagles are going to win, and they're going to wallop the Texans. I hopefully by a lot because I've got Jalen Hurts as my fantasy quarterback, and but not too many to A.J. Brown because I am playing against A.J. Brown. And that's as much insight as I have. Without Brandon Cooks, their offense is going to just be ineffectual for the Texans. They're going to the Eagles are just going to key in on Dameon Pierce, and that's going to be all they wrote. And then the defense, I'm interested Devin Stingley does against the Eagles receivers. And that's really the only interesting thing on their defense as well. So overall, they suck, and they're going to get walloped by the Eagles.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of here is that it's a home game for the Texans on a short week. Other than that, the Eagles should be able to win. Defensive line rotation that you mentioned earlier, Cease, really good. They'll be able to shut down Dameon Pierce. And the Eagles' offense has been good, so I don't see them having any issues tonight. This is, if you're dating someone, need a Thursday off from watching Thursday night, this is the one to take off, I think. All right, Minnesota Vikings at the Washington Commanders Sunday afternoon. The Vikings are favored by 3.5 on the road.
Vikings to win and cover here. Vikings, we talked, I don't think they're an amazing team, but they're very good. 1 o'clock game. The Vikings are much better than the Commanders are. I don't care if it's an away game. The Commanders are still very struggling to have a real identity on offense. Give me the Vikings to win and cover. Honestly, they'll probably win by a touchdown.
Yeah, and before we get too much further into it, I think this is a weird week because I did take a lot of favorites, and I do think that's just going to mean that we're going to have awful weeks. But on paper, everything tells us the Vikings should win by more than 3.5 points. Taylor Heineke makes it a little bit different, where maybe he can make things happen in the second half again. But the Vikings are the better team. They're playing at 1 p.m., so you don't have to worry about primetime Kirk Cousins. I think they win and cover. Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets in the AFC East matchup. Bills favored by 12.5 on the road.
Yeah, give me the Bills to win and cover here. 12.5 points is a lot, but the Jets are just getting more and more hurt, and I don't think Zach Wilson's going to be able to keep up. I think he's going to make some big mistakes against the very aggressive defense when it comes to the pass. So yeah, give me the Bills to win and cover.
Same here. I mean, they beat the Packers by 10 with having their worst game. I don't think that's going to happen again. I'll go Bills to win and cover. Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. Cease. This is one that maybe we didn't think would be so close of a line, but it's 3.5 to the Packers right now.
Yeah, give me the Packers to the Packers to win, and then I'm gonna take the points with the Lions here. I think they'll play close enough. I think Aaron Rodgers will have a much better game, but I think the Packers are just. I think they're just struggling, and sometimes they just end up playing the Lions close, just in a divisional game. They're away, they're at Detroit, so I'm gonna say it's gonna be a close one, but I think the Packers will definitely win.
I'm going Packers to win and cover. Again, just what we see on paper, I think it's what should happen. Even the Packers are struggling. That Lions defense is really bad. This is like the perfect opportunity to get everything back on track for the Packers. I think they do get things at least a little bit back on track, so I'm going to win and cover. All right, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Both teams really struggling this year. Raiders favored by 1.5 on the road.
Man, this is actually one of the roughest games to predict because both teams are so up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Jaguars at home. The Raiders have to travel a good bit. They looked really ineffective. There are a lot of pieces on the Jacksonville defense that are starting to come together. And I think they're going to lean a lot on, what the offense does well. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a much better game against a weak Raiders defense.
I'll go Raiders because, again, on paper, their talent is just better. But you're right. This is one that you don't want to go bet at the casino. You don't want to pick. One thing we didn't talk about earlier with the Jaguars, they did trade for Calvin Ridley. So that'll be good next year for Trevor Lawrence. But this year, it's still looking like it might be a little bit rough. And we'll see if they can figure that out for the next season. All right, Indianapolis Colts at New England Patriots. But see, this is far from the days when Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were playing each other. The Patriots are favored by 5.5 at home.
Yeah, give me the Patriots to I'm going to go win and cover. I think Sam Ellinger is going to have a real tough time against Bill Belichick. He loves feasting young quarterbacks. Yes, I said that way on purpose, and you can interpret it as you like. Yes, the Patriots are going to win in Foxborough against a dome team with a young quarterback that probably shouldn't be starting in the NFL. So, you need Patriots to win and cover.
Same here. Patriots win and cover because Sam Ellinger is starting at quarterback. And not saying he's worse than Matt Ryan or they shouldn't be starting him, but that's definitely a problem, and he definitely is a person who I don't think could take advantage of beating the Patriots downfield, and I think that could be huge here. So Patriots win and cover. All right, Miami Dolphins at the Chicago Bears. Dolphins favored by 5. Cease. If you watch this game, they're going to talk about the 1985 season and how Dan Marino was the only person to beat the Chicago Bears in that 1985 season when they played so well. But just get ready for that. They'll bring it up about 8 times this broadcast.
Yeah, I'm going to go Dolphins. I'm going to have them win and cover here. This is one of the ones I'm not as confident in, especially if Justin Fields starts playing the way he did against the Cowboys and things. But yeah, I'm going to go the defense for the Bears. Bears is also depleted without Roquan Smith. Dolphins got Bradley Chubb. They're surging. Bears are probably supposed to fade, but now they finally may have figured something out with Justin Field. They might be more interesting than they were earlier in the season. So give me the Dolphins to win and cover, and I'm interested to see how Justin Fields does.
I am as well. I'm going Dolphins win and cover as well because, again, you hit the nail on the head there. The Bears defense is just losing their best players. Roquan Smith, I agree. You maybe don't pay a guy that much for being a linebacker who's not an edge rusher. That's fine. But you get rid of him. You get rid of Robert Quinn. You're clearly building for the future. The Dolphins don't have to worry about a really good pass rusher in Robert Quinn. That young secondary, I think, can get picked apart when they're going up against guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Dolphins win and cover on the road. I could easily be wrong about this one. Again, not one I really want to go bet at the casino, but it's just really hard for a team to come back from having your 2 best players traded. All right, Los Angeles Chargers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Chargers are favored by 3, Cease.
Yeah, give me the Chargers to win and cover. They should win. However, their terrible rushing defense is probably going to rear its head again against Atlanta, who's really good against running the ball.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think Justin Herbert is good enough. I know Mike Williams being gone hurts. They should have Keenan Allen play. I've never seen a man's hamstring just be unhealable, and I have some bad hamstrings. So, good lord, man's been out like 2 months with hamstring injuries and barely played last week or the week before that. So, um, yeah, I think they should win. I'm not comfortable with this one either. Upset. I wouldn't be shocked if it happens because the way Atlanta's strength is the Chargers' weakness. But at the same time, the Chargers' strength is their passing offense, and the Falcons are terrible in that category right now because of injuries. So give me the Chargers to win and cover, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Chargers get drug into like a dogfight and the Falcons somehow manage to win.
Yeah, I think Vegas is starting to figure these teams out. There's a lot of games this week I just would not go bet on. I think the lines are pretty good. Um, but you mentioned it. I think Chargers win on the road. Falcons are still like they're playing feisty, but at some point they're gonna have to throw the ball to win, and I don't know if they'll be able to just keep up with Justin Herbert. And Cease, you're right. Keenan Allen has the worst hamstring since Ken Griffey Jr., who when he played for the Reds was hurt every single year with a hamstring issue. So we'll see if he can come back and play well, but who knows? Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 2.
Nope. I'm going Seahawks here. Seahawks played better against Cardinals a couple weeks ago. I don't think the Cardinals are suddenly better by any means. So give me the same result. I think the Seahawks win, and this might be a game I definitely put money on this spread if I was somebody because I do not trust the Cardinals at all.
I'm going Seahawks too. I'm not as confident as you. I'm going Seahawks though. I think they're the better team this season. The line is just a little bit too close for me to maybe to feel confident in it. But Geno Smith's playing well. Kyler Murray has really struggled. It looks like they have tons of problems on the sideline. They're always yelling at each other. Him and Cliff Kingsbury. And this isn't like a Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels thing back in the day where they yell at each other. Then the next week they get everything together and they look good. It's like every week there's something. Body language is bad. Kyler Murray, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers this year have the worst body language in the league, and I'm not even a body language expert, so I'm going Seahawks to win, pull off the upset on the road. That's one. That's one of the 4 o'clock games. Sees the other 4 o'clock game because the NFL doesn't know how to schedule things. Is the Los Angeles Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Both teams very good last season. This year struggling a bunch. The Buccaneers are favored by 3.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Give me the Bucks to win. 3 points. I mean, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to take them to cover as well. The Rams just aren't doing anything right now. Their offense is still just horrible. Cooper Kupp luckily didn't have a horrible injury. His ankle, he's going to be okay, but he's still probably going to be less than 100%. An ankle injury to a guy like that who is just a really good route runner is probably going to affect him more than maybe some other people as well. He'll still get a lot of catches and everything, obviously, but their second option, Van Jefferson's coming off injury and stuff like that, and then the running game is a committee of running backs who probably shouldn't be a starting running back in the NFL. They really failed the NFL trade deadline along with the Packers by not really getting help at running back when they really could have gotten some guys. They were in the Christian McCaffrey sweepstakes, but the smartly outbid them just to make sure he didn't go to the Rams. And now they just have no answers, and their defense is just not as good as it's supposed to be. So give me the Bucks to win this one and cover.
I think both these teams are equal right now. I think they both stink. That's why the line is 3 to the Bucks because at a neutral field that usually means it'd be even. I'll go Rams. I don't know. I Brady seems like things are falling apart personally in this season. I don't really see much from this team that I saw last year. Their defense is bad. Their offense is bad. If you're going to give me 3 points, I'll take the Rams. Sunday Night Football sees we have the Tennessee Titans at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 12.5 in this one. Ryan Tannehill should be back, ready to go for this one as well. He was ill last week, and it should be going in this one.
Yeah, give me the Chiefs to win and cover in this one. The Chiefs have gotten better against the run. That's the big thing they've invested in over the last couple of off seasons to make sure teams don't beat them on the ground. So obviously, they're going to get his, and he's still going to have probably a still effective game. But I mean, I just don't trust Ryan Tannehill this year to do anything. So unless Derrick Henry just completely goes off, which I don't know if he's going to, especially 2 games in a row like that, I think the Chiefs should win and cover.
Yeah, I'm going Chiefs to win and cover. Again, this is not a line I'd bet on. It's a little bit extreme for two teams that are both 5-2. Also, it looks like there's some rain in the forecast. I mean, we're still far away, so it's hard to predict that. But if there's rain, then maybe you go Derrick Henry in that running game over the Chiefs. But I'm going to go Chiefs to win and cover for the time being. The only chance you have if you're the Titans, we talk about this all the time when the Titans play, or even when the Colts last year used to play. You get the ball first, you go score a touchdown, first drive, and then you just try to grind the clock out and make the Chiefs play catch up and then kill the clock, keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. That's the only scenario I think you win this game. I don't think you're going to have a big comeback by the Titans or anything like that. So they're just hoping to score first, or maybe that the weather's really bad. All right, Monday Night Football sees Baltimore Ravens at the New Orleans Saints. Ravens favored by 2.5 on the road.
Yeah, I think the Ravens should win and cover this one easily. I think they're just playing right into it. I think the Saints is a hard place to play, which it can be, and they have a good defense. But I think the Ravens are just gotten better through the trade deadline, so they should win and win easily.
I've got the same thing. Ravens win and win easily. I don't think Roquan Smith will be really going in this one, but it doesn't matter. Their defense is good enough to stop the Saints. And Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, whoever might be starting, with a bunch of their receivers always seemingly hurt. So Ravens win and cover. All right, Cease, any final thoughts for the week?
No, that's it.
Laid it all out on the line for us. Appreciate
laid
that.
it all out.
It's my turn to remind everyone, like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Help us out there. Leave any comments. Ask us any questions. We'll be more than happy to answer those. For now, thanks for listening. We'll see everyone next week.